Hey, fellow problem solvers, Colfax Math here. Today we're going to go over our math final practice review test for the AFOQT Arithmetic Reasoning Review. You want to have a pad of paper and a pencil out in front of you, do the problems before I do them, and then we'll go through the test together so you could do the very best you can on that exam by practicing. You can get more information if you need it with this app right here. You could download it at the App Store or on Google Play. All right, let's go ahead and get started on a practice test. This video is going to go over a lot of different topics: the Pythagorean theorem, probability, word problems in arithmetic operations, equations with exponents, area, proportion, speed, distance, time, rate problems, temperature conversion, and number sequence problem. Okay, problem number one. In the figure below, the area of the square ABCF is 25, and the triangle CDG is an isosceles right triangle. There's a ton of information in this paragraph. The first trick is really to transfer all that information into the picture. So let's highlight the important parts here. Area of a square is 25, and the triangle CDG is isosceles right with the length of the hypotenuse, this piece here, being 3 root 2. What is the area of the rectangle DEFG? So there's a ton of information. First thing I'm going to do, if I'm taking a computer-assisted test, then I'm going to have note paper in front of me. I'm going to draw it down and sketch out the important parts. So the area of this square is 25. By definition, a square is saying this side y, this side y. Y times itself equals 25. What times itself equals 25? So these sides have to be equal to 5 each. Because it's a square, they have equal sides. So all 4 sides are 5. 5 times 5, 25. Isosceles right triangle. So isosceles means this and this are congruent. Isosceles has 2 equal sides. Right means one of the angles is 90 degrees. You put a little perpendicular mark in there to say it's a right triangle or 90 degrees. It's a special group of triangles. And the length of the hypotenuse, CD, is 3 root 2. So this is 3 root 2. Not only is this a right triangle, it's an isosceles right triangle, meaning that these are the same. And I could identify that and know the rule of isosceles right triangles, that the legs are a number and the hypotenuse is that number root 2. But if I didn't know that, I could use the Pythagorean theorem. I don't know what this leg is, so I'm going to call it x. I don't know what this leg is, so I'm going to call it x. They have to be the same. So I have x squared plus x squared is equal to hypotenuse squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. 1x squared plus 1x squared is 2x squared. Whoops. 2x squared. Distributing the square through the quantity here, I have 3 squared, 3 times itself, 9, root 2 times itself. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. Then I have 2x squared equals 18. Divide both sides by 2. These will cancel. X squared equals 9. So what I'm saying again here, what times itself equals 9? That's 3. So this is 3. This is equal to 3. Right, so first I got to transfer my info to my picture. Then I got to start filling in the pieces I can. Then I got to figure out what it is they want. What is the area of the rectangle DEFG? DEFG. What's the area of this rectangle? I have one side of it is 3. It looks like it's a square, but it's a little bit of a trick because if this is 5 and this is 3, this right here, from here to here, has to be 2. 3 times 2 is the area of this. My area is equal to 6 square units. Really hard problem. So step 1, you got to decode. Step 2, you got to fill in all of the missing pieces. Then step 3, you got to kind of go from one to the next to get that length and that length. It's kind of a automatic distractor to make it look like a square where it never says it is. It tells you it's a rectangle, not a square. So these two sides are not congruent to get an area of 6. Okay, problem number 2 is a set of dice. Bob rolls a pair of dice. It's usually these two die right here. It's nice if they're a different color to give you an idea of what the outcomes are going to be. Bob rolls a pair of dice. What's the probability that he rolls these dice, the two ones that show up sum to the number 8, right? So I roll these two dice, and I think about how many outcomes I could get. Well, I get a 1 and a 1, a 1 and a 2, a 1 and a 3, 1 and a 4. Or I get a 2 and a 1, 2 and a 2, 2 and a 3. So I could get 6 by 6 outcomes. So there are 36 possible outcomes. So probability of any event, the probability of any event is equal to the number in the event divided by the number in the sample space. So we've identified, I roll these two dice, the sample space is going to be 36, right? Every possible outcome. And you can see it here. I get a 1 on the white dice and a 1 on the green dice, a 1 or a 2, a 1 and a 3, or I could get a 2 and a 1, right? That's where the 36 comes from. Now I got to figure out how many ways I get an 8. Well, I get a 6 and a 2, a 6 and a 2, a 5 and a 3, a 4 and a 4, a 3 and a 5, 3 and a 5, or a 2 and a 6. So there are 5 possible ways to get an 8. So my probability is 5 ways to get an 8 over the total sample size of 36. So the answer is 536. Problem number 3. Again, the key here is to translate the sentence into a math equation. 2/3 of always means multiply 36 are, or is an equal sign, is equal to 3/5 of, again, multiply which of the following, which means x. So 2/3 of 36 equals 3/5 of what number? So I could simplify a little bit here. 3 goes into 36 12 times. 2 times 12 is 24, is equal to 3/5 times x. I can multiply both sides of the equation by 5/3, multiplying by the reciprocal there. I do whatever I want as long as I do it to both sides of the equation. I do it equally. The 5's will cancel, the 3's will cancel. If I do that to the right side, I also have to do it to the left side. And then 3 goes into 24 8 times. Now I got x by itself. X is equal to 8 times 5, or 40. Problem number 4. If 2x equals 16, 3 to the x is equal to what? Two-step problems. Step 1, I got to figure out what x is. Well, I got one equation, one variable. I could solve this. I divide both sides by 2. These 2's cancel. X is by itself. X is equal to 16 over 2, 8. Now that I have a value for x, I could take that value for x and plug it in there. Right? So now the problem is 3 to the 8th. Pretty big number. Let's see if we could do this in our heads. I don't think so. 3 times 3, 9 times 3, 27 times 3, 81 times 3, 243. So that's 243. We're going to have to multiply it by 3 again, by 3 again, by 3 again. They probably want your answer like this. If it's a no calculator test, it's going to be a pretty simple form. So this will be one of the multiple choice answers. Okay, problem number 5. The blue region of the design shown is to be painted. What is the area of the blue region inside the rectangle? So we have a rectangle. That rectangle is 20 by 10, right? So 20 by 10. So the overall rectangle is 20 times 10, 200. And then I have to remove the area of the circle and then the other circle. Well, diameter of the circle is straight across. So if the rectangle is 10, the diameter is 10. Area of a circle is pi r squared. So if the diameter is 10, the radius is 5. So I'm going to plug a 5 in for the radius, square it, and multiply it by pi. So one circle is 25 pi. The other circle is the same. So I'm just going to multiply that by 2 to get 50 pi. So the area of the rectangle is 200. The area of the two circles is minus 50 pi. And that might be one of your answers if it's multiple choice, 200 minus 50 pi. But the fact that they gave you this right here, we probably should multiply it out. But let's say if I had multiple choice answers to it, I just took 3 and multiplied it by 50, I get 150. So I'm looking for a value about 200 minus 150, about 50, but a little bit less than 50 if there are multiple choice answers. So I'm going to take that to find the exact value. I'm going to go 3.14 times 50, 0, 0, 0, placeholder, 5 times 4, 20, carry the 2, 5, 6, 7, 5 times 3, 15. I'm going to add these together, 0, 0, 7, 5, 1. My decimal place is over 1, 2. So I go over 1, 2, and I get 157. And we were thinking, approximating at 150. 157 is pretty close. So 50 pi is equal to 157. 200 minus 157 is going to give me 43. So there's my answer right there. The blue region is 43. Problem number 6. A pipe 120 inches long is divided into 3 sections. Okay, so I'm splitting this pipe up. I got a picture to represent my words. The ratio of the 3 sections is 3, 5, and 2. So this is long, that's short, and that's a little bit longer. What are the lengths of each section? Well, I don't actually know how long they are, but I know their ratio. So I'm going to call this 3x, 5x, and 2x. All together, they're going to equal a 120. 3x plus 5x, 8x, 8x and 2x, 10x. 10x is equal to 120. Divide both sides by 10. X is equal to 12. If it was multiple choice, 12 would be an automatic distractor, would be one of your answers. It's not. It's asking you what are the length of each section. I got to take that value of 12, plug it back in for x in all these places. 3 times 12 is 36. 5 times 12 is 60. 2 times 12 is 24. Let me double check that. This is going to add up to 60 and 60, 120, and the ratio is 3 to 5 to 2. Keep going strong, keep doing the problems. It's the only way you get better at anything is practice. Okay, problem number 7. What's the area of a triangle with base of 8 feet? I'm going to keep my units on there, 8 feet, and a height of 4 feet. One's a little bit easier. There's a triangle. I have area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So I have 8 times 4, 32, divided by 2, 16. Whoops. 16. And then here I have feet times feet. So feet times feet is square square feet. So the answer is 16 square feet. Or if you're thinking, well, maybe it's not a right triangle like that, the answer is still going to be the same. If the base were 8 and the height were 4 and the triangle looked like that, the area is still 16, because you could see that's half of that rectangle, 8 by 4. Just like this is half of that rectangle, 8 by 4. Okay, problem number 8. 2 trucks leave a factory. Here's our factory right here. At the same time, one travels east 60 miles per hour, and the other truck travels west at 30 miles per hour. Let's just think about that for a second. If this one starts, an hour later it'll be 60 miles. An hour later, this one will be 30 miles. So in an hour, they're traveling 90 miles per hour away from each other. How far will they be, or when will they be 150 miles apart? So we're looking for a number of hours that they're going to be 150 miles apart. So if they are traveling 90 miles per hour times how many hours will they be 150 miles apart? Well, I can see my units will cancel, and that'll give me miles times miles, so that looks right. I have to get this x by itself. I'm going to divide both sides by 90. Those will cancel. If I do that to the left side of the equation, I also have to do it to the right side. So x is equal to 150 over 90. Then I want to reduce that. 10 will go into each of them. 3 will go into 15 5 times. 3 will go into 9 3 times, giving me 5/3. That's the number of hours. Kind of funny to answer 5/3 of an hour. So I'm going to turn that improper fraction into a mixed number. 3 goes into 5 one time with 2 left over. So it is 1 2/3 of an hour. If they want minutes, I got to find 2/3 of an hour. So 2/3 times 60 minutes in an hour. 3 goes into 3 once, into here 20 times. 2 times 20 is 40. So it is 1 hour, 40 minutes. That's your correct answer right there. Number 9, a 120-inch long board is divided into 2 sections. If the ratio of the 2 sections is 3 to 5, what are the lengths? What are the lengths of the sections? So this would be 3x. This would be 5x. Together they equal 120. So I have 3x plus 5x, 8x. 8x is equal to 120. Very similar to the last problem, I got to get that variable x by itself. I divide both sides by 8. X is now by itself. So I got to reduce that. I could look for numbers that go into either of those numbers. And if you could see it, great. If not, you could just start cutting it in half because they're both even. So 60 over 4. 60 divided by 4 is 15. Or I could just keep splitting it in half. 30 over 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So x is equal to 15. If this were a multiple choice problem, that would probably be answer A as an automatic distractor. That is not the correct answer. That is the value of x. You got to take that value of x and plug it in here and in here to get the 2 different lengths. 3 times 15 is 45. That's that length. 5 times 15 is 75. That is that length. They are in the ratio of 3 to 5, and they add to 120. A teacher reviews 4.5 papers per hour. How many papers will a teacher review in 6 1/3 hours? Well, this is 4.5 papers per hour times the 6 1/3 hours, right? This is papers per hour. I want the number of papers. So I'm going to multiply that by the 6 1/3 hours. My hours will cancel, and I'll get papers. It's going to be hard to multiply those mixed numbers, so I'm going to convert them into improper fractions. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So I have 9 over 2 papers times 6 times 3, 18, plus 1, 19 over 3. I multiply across the top, across the bottom, and that's going to give me my answer. I could reduce after, or I could reduce now. It might be a little easier. 3 goes into here 1 time. 3 goes into here 3 times. 3 times 19 is 30 and 27. 57 over 2. And then I could just cut 57 in half to get 58 is 9. No, what is that? 58 is 29. So 28 and a half, right? 56 is 28, and then 57, I cut that in half to get a half and a half. So the teacher can grade 28 and a half papers in 6 1/3 hours. Number 11, in the following series, let's continue. What are the next couple numbers in this series? So what is that number and that number? So I'm looking at this. There are 2 different types of series. One is arithmetic, where you add a certain amount each time. The other is geometric, where you're multiplying. Well, I go 1 plus 9 minus 3 plus 9. So it looks like it's not being multiplied at all. It's weird that it's plus 9 minus 3 plus 9 minus 3. But if I look at it here, this is plus 6, and this is plus 6. So that means this right here must be plus 6. So 7 plus 6 is 13. And then 16 plus 6 to go here will give me 22. Problem 12, a carpenter cut 3 4-foot by 6-inch cells from a 14-foot board. So I have 3 of these 4-foot 6 inches. 12 inches equal a foot. So this is a half foot, right? So I have 4.5 times 3, which means I got 3 of these boards that are 4.5 long. How much is left in that 14-foot board? So I'm going to take a half plus a half plus a half. 1.5. So I'm going to carry that 1 up here, and that's going to give me 13 1/2 feet. We're assuming, of course, that the blade doesn't create any sawdust and no wood is removed. 13.5 from 14 is going to leave me with a half foot left over. So the correct answer is 1/2 of a foot, or 6 inches left over. Problem number 13, 2 cars start at the same place. They travel along the same direction. The first one travels an average of 40 miles per hour, while the second one is going 55 miles. Problem. Number 14, what is the product? So you need to know what that word means. Product means multiply of the reciprocals of these numbers. This is really kind of a vocabulary problem. Reciprocal means if you have the number 5, you flip it over to make it, the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5. So the way you reciprocate a number is you flip it over. So you have to know what the word product means, multiply, and reciprocal means flip it over. This is 5 over 1, really, right? it becomes 1/5. So I'm going to flip that over to get 3/2. I flip that over to get 8/1. I have 5/1. The reciprocal of that is 1/5. And then the product, I want to multiply all those things together. So 2 goes into here once, 2 goes into here 4 times. I don't think I could reduce anything else. Multiply across the top to get 12. Multiply across the bottom to get 5. 12/5 might be an answer if it were multiple choice. Or I could turn it into a mixed number. 5 goes into 12 twice with 2 left over. So 2 and 2/5, 12/5, they are equivalents. This is probably a better answer to leave it in. So again, this is really a vocab problem. You need to know product means multiply. Reciprocal means flip the number over. Problem number 15, when the temperature is 20 degrees Celsius, what is it in Fahrenheit? Use this formula. So Fahrenheit is equal to 9/5 times Celsius. Well, it's telling you this is Celsius, so C and 20 are the same. So I'm just going to take that 20, plug it in there for C, and then I'm going to add 32 to it. Order of operations is important here. You need to multiply before you add. So I have Fahrenheit's equal to this. I'm multiplying fractions. I could cancel. 5 goes into here once, into here 4 times. So I have 9 times 4, 36, plus that 32, and 68. If you work with Celsius and Fahrenheit, that seems about right. 20 degrees is 68 Fahrenheit. All right, hopefully that was helpful on this practice test. Again, you could download the AFOQT tutoring app from the App Store or Google Play, and there's a lot more practice there. And you could also find it at this webpage right here. If you're new to the channel, think about subscribing.